I got to go to a show today. This was KC Collector Expo. Here's some shots of the show. It was really cool. I think the best part about it was, just being able to get out, see people for a little bit. It was really rather pretty cool. I got a chance to run across some people that I hadn't seen in a while. My buddy Craig, who runs the Free State and FanCon shows in the area. It was nice to catch up with him. The show has gotten quite a bit bigger. There was a lot of things to see. I didn't pick up as much as I thought I would, but I thought I'd show you guys a couple things I did end up picking up. One of them was out of all the things, this was sitting on one of the tables. This is from Marvel Comics, the Ren and Stimpy show. This is issue 2. And I ended up picking this up for $3. That was a nice little surprise. It's been a while since I've actually picked up any comics, like a couple months and stuff. So I was like really happy to pick this up, but especially Ren and Stimpy. I remember I'd picked up some of the later issues and then never got around to the earlier ones, but it was nice to find one for $3. And then, so I've got a smattering of things because I was today was just a hangout day with my brother and just going and chilling and doing a bunch of different stuff. So one of the things I ended up picking up, I got this sticker still on it for $10. This is Marion Ravenwood from the Indiana Jones films, right there. Still in the box, still nice. She's not the highest demand figure in the whole line. There's different ones out there, and of course there's new ones coming out. But I really liked this figure. And no, it is not a very good likeness of her. It is a little jarring and a little weird, but it is nonetheless still, I like it. It's pretty cool, for what it's worth and what it is. And then I ended up finding, this is for you action figure aficionados out there. You guys know what this is? So this is from a company called Toy Island, and it's one of those things where you find something and you're like, what am I looking at here? So this guy has like some limited, articulation points. Head doesn't turn, and the reason is, can't really tell on there, but can you kind of see that ghostly look on there, like a burned out television screen? Well, these buttons here on the front, I don't have a button cell battery for it yet. You push these and this lights up. And he's got a speaker right here in his belt. And if memory serves me right, he talks. Well, this was in a bin of like leftover remainders at the show for $5. I'm like, well, no, there's 2 of them. The other one was a little bit more worse for wear. This one's in pretty good condition. Plastic is nice, no real cracks or anything else like that. But mainly, I just like the reference point of the sci-fi design. I don't know much about this company. There were a few other people there that recognized this and remembered it. I thought this was far earlier, but it makes sense with the lighting and the compact build of it and the sound effects on it, that this would been right around like I think early 90s, maybe around 93, something like that. So this was a really nice and cool find. The first thing I found, I'd made myself a promise when I went to the show, I wasn't going to be like just picking up the first thing I saw, but I am a sucker for obscure, weird robots. And I've already transformed him, but he's pretty fragile, so I'm not going to do it again. Look at this little chromatic beauty. So, let's see if I can get a better shot here. Maybe I'll do a B-roll shot of him. But this guy had his stickers and everything in they're nice refractive, vinyl stickers. He transforms into a hawk, and I can show you one bit of it. The head flips up here and then flips back down to reveal the head here. I don't know why. I know when I was a kid, the fellow that was selling them had a few of these, or 2 of them actually. He had one that was a purple robot that turned into a spider, but one of the legs was missing. It was broken off. It was vacuum metallized plastic, and like the wings on this these aren't metal wings, they're plastic. And I thought, I want something that's a little bit more complete, and this was just a couple bucks, so that was nice. And then, going to the show was really fun in general, just because it got me a chance to kind of look around and do things like that. Like talking to people. We were at the show only for a little while. It's a very well-run show. If you happen to be in the Independence, Kansas City area, I recommend the show. It's really fun. It's held at I almost said the Department of Motor Vehicles, but it is the DAV, which I believe is a Disabled American Veterans Hall. And it was, the parking was much better this time. We didn't stay long enough to, really see, and talk to everybody that was there or anything else like that. It was like The aisles are still kind of a little smaller, which, you know, makes working around the rooms a little more difficult, but they had expanded out to some of the other rooms, so that was cool. And all in all, it was still an enjoyable show. You know, would I vend at it? Nah, I don't think so. They don't really have an artist style or anything. It's for people selling anything vintage, which brings me to that. Like, you guys just saw, like, toys and comics and stuff like that. Cool. Which, you know, I picked up a few things, and that I was good with that. But my favorite thing I found, and I'm so excited because I'm going to put this in sleeves really soon, my Jurassic Park laser disc. Yeah, it's not the album. Everyone thought I bought an album. No, it is the Jurassic Park laser disc. And this beauty is just stunning. I love this thing so very much. Okay, so there's a reason why I want this. Never mind the fact that I finally found somebody that sells refurbished and rebuilt laser discs. And I have my eye on a Pioneer laser disc here in the next year or two. I have a small collection of laser discs. I have Star Wars A New Hope. I think the special edition version. I have Rob Roy, Robotech, a few other things like that, all in storage right now here in another part of the studio. And I love this form factor. It is absolutely crazy. And I opened it up. I asked if I could take a look at the discs inside, which I don't want to drop, so I'm going to set this thing down, and got a chance to kind of look at it, and it's in perfect condition. The reason why this one makes such an impression for me is, and also understand this is the letterboxed edition, because there was the pan and scan edition, specifically a letterboxed edition. The reason why this wonderful disc means so much to me is, so this was a conversation that came up about memories, and I guess we could kind of talk through that in this particular entry. Memories are really important to me, and as you can tell from the proliferation of bullshit here and everything in the rest of the studio, I attach a lot to things like that. And there's been a debate that I've been in where, does a physical item, does a thing help evoke a memory for you? Does it make you, is it important that that thing lasts forever, or that it's with you? I'm always on the fence about that. Through therapy, I've found that, like, certain things can elicit reactions and you want them. And in this case, with this particular Laserdisc, I have very fond memories of going to my friend Ray Brule's house when we were younger, when we were still in high school, and watching Jurassic Park on Laserdisc. I just loved it. I was blown away by how good it looked. I was completely floored by the fact that it would look like a giant CD. I didn't know much about tech at that time. I was just starting to get my interest in. And the best part about it was just, it would normally be on a Saturday night or something like that. The few times that I would have been there, we would have just gotten done gaming, or maybe just hanging out or gaming downtown at this gaming store called I'm Game. How many times can I say the word game? And this particular one just, it was something where I was like, this is everything. This is fantastic. This is something, when I saw it, I was like, there's not even a question. It was just $10. Just $10. And it was in immaculate condition. And I thought, I can't pass up on this, right? A lot of times they're broken, they're scratched. It looks to be in mint condition. I'll know someday when I get a disc player, but for what it's worth, this will also be a nice backdrop to a lot of my Jurassic Park collection that I'm super excited to get out eventually. And as the cats fight over a bed. The conversation we brought up before, like, you know, what intrinsically gives, you know, merit to a thing we'll own. And there's a lot of things that, you know, like, this busted the other day. I was playing guitar and my capo busted. The side came apart. So like this whole thing won't stay on a guitar neck at all. It still kind of opens and clamps, but so this is what's supposed to be here and it's busted. You know, what are you going to do? Now, you know, I've had this for quite a while. I love this thing, but I really needed a better one. And that one just broke. So, you know, it is what it is in that circumstance. I have a lot of things that sort of stuff happens. I guess he agrees. And, you know, walking through a show where you see all of these sort of things laid out, and and stuff. You know, there is a point in my life when I'm like, well, when is enough enough? Or, you know, is this too much? Or, you know, there will be people that will say that, you know, you don't need a thing to be connected to a memory or to something akin to that. I take a weird stance in this because I have things in my collection that are irreplaceable or that are extremely hard to find. They're just one-offs or unique things. I have, okay, I'll give you a perfectly good example. Even though I don't have a lot of good memories of Hallmark in general, the people there were often, if not exclusively, the reason why I enjoyed working there. So I have things that I have photos of or items pertaining to that. I have some items that I managed to track down that are really rare of the time that I was there doing voice acting that remind me of the fellows I knew that were the sound engineers and directors. I have some ornaments that were done. They're the mass-produced versions, but they were done by my buddy Jake Engel, who is a phenomenal sculptor and illustrator. And I have those. I even have my last group that I worked there, and I had drawn some stuff on a whiteboard that was in my half cubicle, and my buddy Ryan, who sat across from me, would add to it. And it was like a knockoff of Magnum PI, but as a caveman. It was the strangest thing. I don't even know if I have that. I hope I still have that. I know I do have the image, but I just not somewhere where I could throw it in as an overlay. Unless I do, then hey. But it's because I knew I couldn't take that whiteboard, right? It was temporary. I had to clean it whenever I left Hallmark. But just that memory, having those things are invaluable to me. It doesn't replace anything about a friendship. It cultivates and keeps that memory tight and in my mind for me for as long as I own that thing, a JPEG, a physical item. Something like this took me right back to being at Ray's house when I was a teenager. And sure, we always look back at things and go, oh, times were simpler back then. Well, it's not so much that as much as it is, it's a familiar time that we can replay and replay and replay. It's like watching reruns. It's one of the reasons why I've watched Futurama and The Princess Bride, two of my favorite forms of media, as far as thematic aspects and whatnot. I've watched The Princess Bride every month without fail. And I have for probably 6-7 years now, every month. And Futurama, I go through these binges, which, by the way, new episodes are coming out on Hulu, and I'm super excited about that. I will watch Futurama all the way through, with the exception of Jurassic Bark. I have never seen that episode. I will watch everything all the way through, and then watch it again. And it's kind of a comfort zone for me. It's something familiar, but I know what's going to happen, and I understand what's going on. So it formulates a certain time in my life when I, really liked that series when it originally aired, and I still love it. And there's so much there connected in that zone that these things represent more than just a physical thing that I enjoy or an experience that I enjoy. They keep me connected with my younger days. They keep me connected with the dreams and ideas I have moving forward. And they keep me connected on a whole slew of other aspects that I don't even realize at the moment. Sometimes it's my humor or how I'll engage with something that maybe isn't the most pleasant and how I can work through things. They've become aspects of stress management. There is always the danger you can go too far into something and it can overwhelm or supplant common sense and, dealing with things. But for the most part, I believe I've managed to keep an okay hold on that. So then later in the day, he and I, my brother likes to certainly go different places and stuff, like when he's up here in the city, and we'll do what we call, like I have christened it to be kind of a smuggler's run, and we hit different areas that have different things that maybe he doesn't get to very often and I never really go to. And I was super excited, although one of the items, and I just realized I left it upstairs, but if you've never heard of Ollie's, it's like a buyback store for discount things. Sometimes they have the strangest things, them and Five Below. And I have two items, one from Five Below and the other one from Ollie's. One from Five Below, there is a company called Block Tech. Now, for anyone that follows me, I love Lego, but I'm not a huge Lego head. I own a lot of sets. The Monster Hunter set was absolutely my favorite. And I had a book of that around here too I can show you. But Ollie's was really pretty cool, but we'll get to that here in a second. When I went to Five Below, there was these brand new sets for $5 called Block Tech. And this is one of them. Tell me that's not freaking adorable. They're very Lego compatible, just like a lot of other ones that are out there. But this one, there's no mythos or anything that I'm aware of behind it. It's just a trope, an anime trope of like, the wise old man. You know, and there's a bunch of other characters down here on the side and stuff like that that were really cool. They had all of them, but the green box got me, as well as just the design of the character having green in his outfit. And who doesn't love the old wizened character, the Obi-Wan, the Yoda in any story? So that was really cool. And then of all the things, a few years ago, I remember that this is a very weird thing. So there were multiple sets of this, and they were released as starter games. And I need to go back and look at this because I remember seeing them and then they disappeared. I don't know if the game's good or not, but just for the sheer weirdness of it, I wanted to pick it up and then maybe take a look at the artwork that was in it because I thought it was really interesting. The History Channel released a game called Anachronism. And this is kind of wild. The artwork is freaking glorious. The lighting's not doing any favor here, and neither is this thing. So once I get it open, I'll end up talking about this more. I picked it up for $2.99. It's a two-player game. So basically, it's a complete two-player experience awaits you. This 5-minute strategic combat springs to life with fantastic artwork and tactical gameplay. 2 warriors will enter the arena, but only one will emerge victorious. The Anachronism 2-player starter game box contains all you need to pit these 2 great warriors against each other in single combat. 2 full sets of warriors and support cards. A play mat of the area map. of the arena map. I'm like, I can't see this. A rule book and 2 6-sided die. Your options expand with additional warrior packs, each with another warrior and the tool that made them great. Educational and informative cards bring history to life through exciting gameplay. And then this is put out by TryKingGames.com. I have never heard of that company. I don't know why I don't remember who the company was that I thought this was, but this was not it. I knew it wasn't Wizards of the Coast. I don't know why. I thought it was the same company that did Legend of the Five Rings. I don't remember exactly why I thought that. So that was my first find. No, this was one of the later finds I found at Ollie's. And then I was mentioning Lego earlier, and one of the things that I was really enjoying was I found this book. Now, this was just $1.99, and I love the DK book series. DK does a lot of great historical books, and I have a ton of them for reference and different things for light historical reference. Pirates, all these other things. They're similar to the Osprey Man at Arms books, with the ones that I currently have. But this was really cool. This one was $1.99. And it is a book kind of unofficially for the Monster Hunters line. And it has fantastic art. I'm not even doing this thing justice. I should do a B-roll of this thing. But anyway, basically, what it is, it's a sticker book. And there's stickers in the back that you fill in. As you pick those out, and then you fill in the different areas within the book. I'm giving myself a backache. So that was $1.99, and I remember missing this. This was the only copy I found there, so that's kind of how Ollie's rolls. But now, I want to show you the other big thing that I picked up that I was like super excited for. Of course, it's a book, because I don't have enough books, because I haven't done enough book reviews on here, right? I haven't done enough book reviews. I've got one stupid episode in that playlist. Really got to add more. Well, you're in luck, because I will be adding more, and this is one of them that's going in there. I do plan on doing, somebody asked me about that because they said, I got a message because they follow me on TikTok and they had seen that I had done a review of the Banksy art book that I had. And they were confused because they saw my recent Banksy video on TikTok about the small show I'd gone to, the unofficial show. And I thought, this is a really good time to recover that Banksy book now that I've had a chance to kind of look at it and read some of it. Not all of it, unfortunately. So this here is really interesting. There is an artist out there that creates these books that, his name is Simon Stollenhag. And for those of you that know, he is a phenomenal illustrator. And he creates these books that are freaking awesome. Everything about this, I'm fairly new to a lot of his work in retrospect, but his work is absolutely stunning. It reminds me, the artwork is haunting. It really covers a lot of gorgeous environmental and character design aspects. It feels like something like an apocalypse in the Midwest. And I love this so very much. That one is actually called Office Landscapes. And I believe he is the same one that did another series that were almost war machines in fields, like in the Soviet Union and stuff. He's been known for a lot of things, and I apologize. I know there's probably other people far more versed in his work, and these shots aren't doing any real justice to this. But the work is absolutely just freaking phenomenal. And I'll show you one more. Oh, this one is haunting to me. I just love this one. Thank God this video is widescreen. Look at that. Look at that. I believe this is the second one. I think he's got 3 books total. This is published by Simon & Schuster. And the actual MSRP on this was $39.99. Got it for $6 at Ollie's. Now, granted, this thing has, it's got some damage on the bottom. I don't care. I don't care. I've got scars too. So I was really happy to get that. And I've got a little book cover. I've got some fabric stretchable book covers that I'm going to put on some of these things. But this one might just get poly bagged like a lot of my other books. That's a weird hobby of mine. Ever since there's a window back here behind the recording microphone bay, I still to this day don't know what happened. I know there was a torrential rainstorm. I've done a video on this at some point in time, and I learned my lesson. I had a lot of really irreplaceable books and things in the way. I still don't know what happened. I still don't know what happened. When I came downstairs to the studio, I remember walking in and hearing a splish. There was no water outside. Now the floor drops directly outside of the studio down toward like about 1.5 inches to the drain that previously had backed up when there was sewage problems down here. So there is, and the floor underneath this has hollows in it to let the cement dry and breathe and allow for a little bit of flooding in the event of an emergency, but not a lot. So it didn't come from in here or from out there, but this area had a torrential rainstorm, and there is a broken window that is impossible to fix. The sealant around it is keeping the broken glass in. There is no way to remove the glass and completely seal it, so it's like a real hodgepodge thing filled up with foam and other stuff like that. At that time, it only had some tape holding the parts together. Something happened, and somehow, like you'll notice there's a shelf back here with a robot on it underneath my Ant-Man helmet. This white shelf here had water not on top of it and not behind it, but in the shelf underneath it. And the books had all been hit. Most of them were hit with water. Now, thankfully, some of them were newer books. They were a bit more robust. Still heartbreaking, because drying them, I didn't know enough at the time. I was in a panic. How do I let these things dry? How do I get the pages apart? Fanning them open. Some people would use hair dryers. All this, that it turns out, never use a hair dryer. You get them wrinkled. Now, a lot of them, I'm trying to press them flat. I have no idea if I've ultimately saved most of them. At the time, I believe I did. So there was a whole technique where, ironically and coincidentally, either way, however you want to look at it, I had just picked up a bunch of bags that had these desiccant packs in it. I think that's the word. Desiccant? It's the little packs you don't eat. And they help dry out stuff when you store it. So for each book that I got done and dried out, I had my entire studio was just covered in books at the time, just open up. And I don't know what happened. I can't explain how the top of this wasn't wet, how the wall wasn't wet, how nothing on the wall got ruined. But there was a puddle underneath my workstation on this side of the room where I have my work desk. And then there was a puddle of water on the vinyl floor. And there was nothing anywhere. It was the strangest thing. It was like somebody had come in and thrown water directly onto the lower shelf without touching the top or the wall. And then a puddle of water underneath what used to be a carpet over here. I could not to this day figure it out. And how only specific books got wet. It was one of those moments where, although I'm not a big believer in things like poltergeists or weird things like that, it definitely was like, what the ever loving hell just happened here? And it was weeks of fixing everything. And I thankfully didn't lose anything in my really, really valuable books. Like I had some old Dungeons and Dragons books and some other art books. Thankfully, those were not on the shelf at the time. I had moved them on a lark to clean behind it and reinforce the shelf. And if it had not been for that, I would have lost some extremely, extremely expensive books that are not only some of them out of print, some of them had artwork in them from artists that I will either never see again or they have long since passed. And that would have been utterly devastating. I don't know how I would have really recovered from that. I mean, it's not life-ending, but it is definitely traumatic. So after that, and I kind of alluded to that earlier with this Laserdisc, I saved up the money and I made a special project for myself where every single bit of media that I buy, everything I have, there are plastic comic boxes. Each one of those plastic comic boxes have boards and bags in them. They're all taped up and everything to help prevent any sort of thing. If water fell on it, the majority of the books would be fine. You know, as long as there's not standing water or high humidity. With all of the books I had, even if they were or were not damaged, they all now have been sealed within Mylar bags, and they're all coated over, are taped over, and they've got a pack in there to keep them dry. It's still loose, so some moisture can get in and out, but it's tight enough with most of them, and that's how almost everything is stored on my cases. And it became something where, because I wanted to protect these things, I've been investing in more and more cases. Dust is always a problem. I've talked about this before, but this is more like, I don't want any real damage to happen. I would like these things to last as long as possible, and that sort of thing. And someday, as terrible as that is to talk about, if I ever have to decide to sell my collections or whatever of any of the stuff I have, then I have them in really good condition. But they sell all sorts of like plastic and vinyl cases now that you can buy for everything. So that's something that I was really freaked out that day about. But so I'm hoping that's the same thing. As soon as I get done with this book, actually, even the books that I'm reviewing or in the process of doing, I return them back to those bags after I'm done, so they're not getting scratched up on the cases. And in the event there's ever a problem down here, especially after the whole sewage thing, there would be at least some chance of recovering a lot of the stuff down here. It's a weird psychosis, right? It's probably not normal, but it is something where I'm just like, well, I bought this stuff, I want it to last, and I'd like to protect it as long as I can. It's really weird. Really, really weird. I'd come across an individual online some time back. He goes by, his name is Daniel, but he went by the username PirateCrabUK. My buddy of mine, Rick, has done some wonderful tribute videos. If you don't follow him, his links are down below. Rick Gets Wrecked and then Robot Co-op. Talking about this gentleman. And if you don't know who Pirate Crab UK was, who Daniel was, he was a phenomenal guitarist. He passed very recently, about a week ago, from my understanding. I'm still getting a lot of details on that, and honestly, the details don't matter. He was 30, and he passed away, and he left an incredible legacy behind. An incredible one. If you don't know who he is, do a Google search. He had some amazing compositions that he had done on guitar that blow my mind. Completely blow my mind. His knowledge of music, math, composition, the methodology that he would utilize. Somebody had mentioned how he very much had a Joe Satriani sort of feel. When I saw his playing, it did remind me a little bit of Joe Satriani. I kept thinking of one of my own heroes, whose name just left my head right now, Paul Gilbert from Racer X and Mr. Big. Just, you know, what I like to call the spider fingers when you're playing on a guitar and your fretboard technique is all over the place, and when you can really stretch these out so far and you've still got control of your fingers, like your pinky and stuff like that, to do hammer-ons, pull-offs, all that sort of stuff, and create intonations and harmonics as effortlessly as he did. It is phenomenal to see that. What is Also phenomenal is, and not in a good way, is the creative hole that was left behind by his passing. No doubt he was, I use the term talented sparingly because I have always said that saying somebody is talented is a disservice to the incredible amount of perseverance, skill, determination, and just passion that would be involved in becoming that good at something. I can only hope to have the same sort of drive. One of the things that I admired about him was that his playing, as varied as it could be across the spectrum of metal, which is what he primarily did, he could take a composition from somebody like Bach and reinterpret it successfully, wonderfully, and evolve it into something his own. I only recently found out about his work in the last probably year or two. I think I'd always heard it. I'd heard it in different productions and other things, but I didn't know it was him. And then with his passing, it's one of those things where you realize too late, like, wow, this is somebody I probably would have wanted to have reached out to, talk to, seen, what was going on with them, followed their careers. It reminds me of, I spoke about this a few videos back, finding a video series by an older gentleman who was celebrating having his studio and all of these things set up. And then by the time I got to the end of it, I noticed in the last few videos that they were saying, R.I.P. good sir. And I'd realized I had been watching essentially evergreen content from a fellow who had passed away some months prior. In fact, about the same time I started watching his channel was when he passed away, and I had no real knowledge of it. I had subscribed, but I decided I want to start with the older videos at this point. Like the one I had discovered, I just went forward from there, and I figured I'll go back and watch the older ones later. I am very much one of those people on YouTube that I'm like, once I find somebody, I'm like, I want to go through your archive. Even if it's good or bad or dated or whatever, I want to watch the content you've made. Because when you work in media enough, you start to appreciate the writing, the acting, the presentation, lighting, everything, just the whole thing. Have I said lighting twice? I think I said it twice. That's how important it is. Their opinion on things, because I believe everyone has a story to tell. And so, yeah, it was devastating to see that. But it's even in the same zone for this case. I discovered this young man and what he had done and all these sort of things. And then all of a sudden, it's gone. It's over with. And I'm bringing this back around full circle. I think it's going to become my new trademark. I'm bringing it around full circle as I take a drink of water. Then I'm waving my hand in the air. That regardless of what I pick up, whether it's a book, an action figure, wonderful laser disc, or anything else like that, all of these things affect me. But what really affects me are moments when I meet people, and these moments can be so fleeting. And it brought up something in my mind, and I've mentioned this before, right? Making time, managing time, and right now with being back in sort of a school curriculum, and that's a whole other story, and my time being switched up on some other stuff and trying to make ends meet, and also trying to go to shows and just get back out there and feel better about being around groups of people. I'm very aware of the fact that the time goes by quicker than you know. And I don't mean that in a bad way. We all face it, or we don't face it, or we ignore it, or whatever. But it is one of those things where, how much time are we really given? You could easily say, well, hey, I've got, I'm going to live to be 70 years old or 80 years old or whatever. We don't really know. And I'm not trying to make this sound like it's coming down. I am saying, as bringing it back around, taking the time to look into these things. And even if you find something new, like, I didn't know anything about this little robot, but I thought he was wonderful. He's a wonderful addition to my collection. I will cherish him for as long as I have him, because I think he's fantastic. And it is also a memory of having gone to this show with my brother, and that is the first thing I bought in the door. Getting to meet people and be around them means more than just staying connected on Facebook if you can help it. It means more than just the occasional text. means being in the presence of that person if you can, if you're comfortable. Sure, everybody has social anxiety. I certainly freaking do. But I really do relish when I get the opportunity and I allow myself that opportunity to be around people and be in the moment and enjoy that moment. That is more important. And the older I get, the more I realize that. And if people really want to be around you, they will make the time for it. If people really have the ability to do that. And I understand there is jobs, there's all kinds of things that get in the way. Of course they do. But I am constantly reminded of, it isn't that I picked up a Laserdisc. It isn't that I just found these two different musicians and only really began to appreciate them after they had gone. It isn't that I try and reach out to people online all the time when I can or whatever. It is, can I go above and beyond that to make moments count? Because someday, whether that's tomorrow or decades from now, please, that my time is up, what am I going to remember? It certainly isn't going to be how much work did I do. It certainly isn't going to be how many views I got or how many replays a video got. It's going to be, who did I talk to? What good memories did I forge? And what do I take with me? Because that everything in here is the only thing I can start to leave with. And who knows afterward, right? Who really knows? So with that, do yourself a favor, if you don't already. Start to look at life and realize the people around you more and more. I know that there's a ton of people that I can say this, I think I take them for granted because I'm so stuck in other elements of my life that I don't make time. And that is something I want to change, and I am actively working toward. And I've started learning that pretty aggressively here these last couple of days with another project that I'm involved with. So that's been very refreshing. But with that, that's enough. I've been talking for 40 minutes. I only meant for this to be a 20-minute video, but it's not. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll catch you in the next video. I think you know what? I never really introduced myself. For anyone that's watching this for the first time, that's made it all the way through, I am Mario. I go by the Artisan Rogue. You can find me on all the links down below. And this is just my journal where I talk about bullshit for a while. Okay, yeah, that was a stupid ending. All right, I'll talk to you guys later. Close with the big hand.